Ancient tales of love and grace, where lost are found and hearts embrace. A master gave talents to servants three, to use them wisely and faithfully. One doubled his share, another two, but the third was scared and hid his gold. This is the parables of Jesus. This is the parables of Jesus. Picture parables, the overseers.
The sun will rise tomorrow whether you are ready for it or not. You can spend your day guarding the little you have, or you can spend it planting the seeds of a life that will outlive you. My father is not a debt collector waiting for his change. He is a king looking for partners in his kingdom. So go. Take the gold he has placed in your hands, and do not be afraid to let it go, for the only thing you truly lose in this life is what you were too afraid to use. He who has ears to hear, let him hear.
Rabbi, that was a powerful word for the thousands. But you're telling them not to be afraid. But look at us. Our supplies are thinning, and the towns are growing hostile. What if we don't have enough to get by? What if we lose the little influence we've gained?
He's right, Master. We have to be careful. If we spend what we have now and the crowds turn, we'll be left with nothing. We need a plan to protect the little we've managed to save.
I knew this would happen. How are we supposed to build a kingdom with nothing but empty pockets and promises? We are constantly giving, constantly pouring out. But what happens when there is nothing left to give? Jesus, look, it feels like we are walking a tightrope, and if we make one wrong move with what we have left, it's over. Are we just supposed to wait until the dust is all we have to eat? For the sake of the ministry, we must start taking offering.
I appreciate your concern, but I refuse to make the crowds give us an offering. We did not come here to take, we came here to give. Tell me, whenever I teach you something, do I make you pay me, like you have received freely? Now we must give freely.
But Rabbi, we cannot live mainly on people's donations. It's not sustainable. I know that you do not like the idea of us taking an offering, but it's the only way for us to sustain ourselves. We have to be practical. If the money runs out, the ministry stops.
You faithless and corrupt people, how much longer must I be with you before you truly see? You worry about the bread in your bags and the copper in your pockets as if the heavens are made of brass and my Father's hands are closed. O you of little faith, why do you argue about what you lack when you are standing in the presence of the one who provides the rain and the harvest? You live as if you are orphans scavenging for crumbs, forgetting that you are meant for so much more. You have been given talents and abilities to use for the glory of my Father, and you're worried about bread and money. You are so terrified of losing your lives that you have stopped living them altogether. Answer me this, because this is many of you. What do you do with a gift you didn't earn? If a hand reaches out and offers you a treasure, not because you deserved it, but because you were trusted, do you see it as a key to a new life or a weight to carry? Do you see the one who gave it to you as a father who wants you to fly, or a judge who is waiting for you to fall? Many of you are holding on to your lives so tightly that you've forgotten they were given to you to be used, not just kept. Look at this fire. If I walk away and leave it alone, it does not grow. It breathes only because we give it wood. It warms us only because we tend to it. The kingdom of heaven is no different. Think of it like this. The kingdom of heaven is like a master, a man who ran his house with a deep sense of wisdom. He had many servants, but he didn't just see servants, he saw them as people. Imagine a master, a man of immense wealth, yes, but even greater heart. He was known throughout the land not for his iron fist, but for his patience. He saw potential in people that they couldn't see in themselves. One fine morning, before he set off for a distant land, he called 3 of them together. He had bags of gold in his hands, and he had a specific reason for how he gave them out. He went first to a servant who had been by his side for years. They had walked through everything together, the lean seasons where the dust choked the crops, and the golden harvests where the barns nearly burst. The master knew this man's heart. He knew his integrity was forged in grit and long days of labor. Because he was so trustworthy, the master looked at him and smiled, a look of true partnership, and handed him 5 heavy bags of gold. The servant was overwhelmed. He felt the sheer weight of that wealth, and was honored that his master would trust him with such a fortune. He began to bow, his knees hitting the dust to thank his master for such radical generosity, but the master wouldn't have it. He reached down and pulled the man up from the ground. He looked him in the eye, called him by his name and said, "I trust you. This is yours now. Do with it whatever you see fit." Then he turned to the second. This servant was just as responsible as the first, diligent, steady, and always exactly where he was supposed to be. He was the one who made sure the gates were locked and the livestock was fed before anyone else was even awake. The master looked at him with that same pride and handed him 2 bags of gold. Now, this man wasn't quite as bold as the first. He was a little bit more cautious, the kind of man who likes to measure twice and cut once, preferring the safety of a well-trodden path to the risk of the unknown. But the master knew this. He didn't want him to be anyone else. He loved him for that steady, careful heart. He placed the 2 bags in his hands and gave him a firm, encouraging nod that said more than words ever could. But then there was the last one, a man brand new to the estate, still smelling of the road and carrying the dust of his past. The master didn't have years of history with him yet, and could see that he wasn't yet trustworthy. He was untested and raw, but the master was patient, a man who saw potential where others saw only flaws. He reached out and handed the newcomer 1 single bag of gold, a gesture of pure grace intended as an invitation into the family business. But the newcomer didn't see the grace. Instead, as he felt the weight of that 1 bag and looked over at the 5 bags held by the veteran and the 2 held by the steady one, a sharp, bitter sting of offense rose up in his throat as he wondered why he was worth so much less than the others. He felt insulted by the very gift meant to set him free and wanted to demand more, but fear choked his words. He didn't want to offend the master and risk having the gold taken away before he could even hold it, so he masked his resentment, tightening his grip on the gold and forcing a thin, fake smile and a stiff nod of gratitude that never reached his eyes, hiding the bitterness that was already beginning to take root in his heart. The master stood before the 3 of them, his heavy travel cloak already draped over his shoulders, catching the first stirrings of the morning breeze. He looked them each in the eye, his gaze lingering on the veteran, the steady one, and the newcomer until they felt the gravity of the moment. He said, "Take care of these. They are truly yours now, to do whatever you want with. I'm not giving you a list of rules, a set of directions, or a schedule to follow. I am giving you my wealth and my freedom, and I simply want you to do something with what I've given you. There will be an account when I come back, and I look forward to hearing the good reports." And just like that, without looking back or checking to see if they were watching, the master turned and set off down the long road toward a distant land, leaving them standing there in the morning silence. 3 men, with nothing but the weight of the gold in their hands and the terrifying, beautiful freedom to choose what to do next. Now the first servant, the one the master had known and trusted for so many years, he didn't wait a single hour. He took those 5 bags of gold and he threw himself into the world like a man on a mission. He was in the marketplace before the sun was fully up, his mind racing with the possibilities the master had granted him. He didn't just play it safe, he was bold. He invested in the spice caravans coming across the desert. He bought into the vineyards just before a record harvest, and he traded in the busy docks where the great ships bring in silks and cedar. He lived with his sleeves rolled up, negotiating, building, and taking calculated risks because he knew the master's heart was as big as his fortune. By the time the seasons had turned, his 5 bags hadn't just grown, they had birthed a whole new legacy. He stood there with 10 heavy bags of gold, double what he started with, not just because he was clever, but because he used the freedom he was given to its absolute limit. Now the second servant was a different kind of man. He wasn't one for the loud noise of the docks or the high-stakes gamble of the spice caravans. He was a little bit more careful, a man who preferred to walk the land and look at the soil before he planted a single seed. He took those 2 bags of gold and he treated them with a quiet, persistent focus. He didn't rush. Instead, he looked for the steady opportunities that others might have overlooked in their hurry. He invested in the local olive groves, watching the trees through the winter, and he lent his support to the village craftsmen, building a network of small, honest trades that grew day by day. He moved with a patient rhythm, calculating each step to ensure that what the master had entrusted to him was always moving forward, never backward, and his steady hand paid off. Through that quiet, careful diligence, he watched his 2 bags of gold slowly but surely become 4. He didn't have the flash of the first man, but he had the same result. He had taken the master's trust, and he had made it double. Now the 3rd servant stood alone, looking down at his single bag of gold. The first 2, seeing his hesitation, reached out in kindness and offered to help him invest, wanting to show him the ropes of the market. But the newcomer, still nursing his wounded pride, pulled his bag away and told them he didn't need any help from them. He was determined to manage it his own way, even if that way was born out of fear rather than wisdom. He stood there alone, while the others had already rushed off to start their work. That bitter sting of offense grew into a mountain in his mind. He was desperate to prove he was just as responsible as the veterans, and for a moment he actually contemplated stepping into the marketplace to buy or sell, imagining himself coming back with a fortune to shame the others. But every time he reached for the latch of his door, a cold, paralyzing fear gripped his heart. The fear that if the market turned or a thief crossed his path, he would lose the only thing he had. He became deceived by his own anxiety, convincing himself that the safest way to show his worth was to ensure that not a single coin was ever at risk. He truly believed that if he could just hand back the exact same bag, untouched and undiminished, the master would see his caution as the ultimate form of loyalty. So, driven by this tragic logic, he crept out into the lonely fields under the cover of dusk and dug a deep, dark hole in the dirt. He buried the master's trust in the silence of the earth, thinking that by doing nothing, he was securing his future, never realizing that he was actually burying the very life he was meant to live.
Rabbi, I have a question. I'm sorry for interrupting.
It's okay, Matthew. Tell me, what is your question?
I'm looking at this from the perspective of a man who has sat at the customs table. I've seen how hard it is to actually make a talent of gold, and I've seen 1,000 ways for a man to lose it in a single afternoon. To me, the 3rd man's logic seems sound. If he had gone to the market and a thief had struck, or if the ships had sunk, he would have come to the master with nothing. He would have failed. By putting it in the ground, he guaranteed that the master's property remained whole. He protected the principal. In the eyes of the law, and in the eyes of any cautious man like myself, isn't not losing the gold the first step of being responsible? Why is he the villain for ensuring the master got back exactly what he gave?
In the world of money and ledgers, Matthew, you are right. To protect the coin is the law of the bank. But in the kingdom of my father, the law is different. My father didn't create the sun so it could be kept in a box where it wouldn't burn out. He created it to give life. To the master, the risk of losing the gold was far less offensive than the certainty of the gold being useless. The master didn't give the gold to be guarded, he gave it to be shared. Tell me, Matthew, when I called you from your table, did I ask you to keep your life safe and unchanged, or did I ask you to leave it behind and grow into something new?
You asked me to leave it behind and grow into something new.
Exactly. Now, let me tell you about the return. Then, not long after the seasons had turned, the master came back, not as a cold judge, but as a man who had truly missed his household and couldn't wait to be home. He looked forward to seeing his servants with such anticipation, eager to see how they had grown and what they had built with the freedom he'd given them. The moment he arrived, he practically threw himself off his horse and ran into the house, pulling all 3 servants into a great, sweeping hug. He was so excited, his voice full of life as he looked from face to face, asking them, "Tell me, what did you do? What did you discover? Show me what you've done with my money. I have been looking forward to what all you have done with the freedom I gave you." The master called the first servant to the front and, with a wide grin, asked, "Tell me, friend, what did you do with what I gave you?" The servant stood tall, his eyes bright with the thrill of the journey, and said, "Master, the moment you left, I knew I couldn't let your trust sit idle. I took those 5 bags of gold straight to the great trade routes, and I didn't hold back. I invested in the spice caravans coming out of the east. I bought shares in the merchant ships that brave the high seas, and I even put a portion into the new vineyards on the south slopes. I worked through the heat and the cold, negotiating in the markets and watching the world move, all because I wanted to honor the freedom you gave me. And look, your 5 bags have brought forth 5 more. Here are 10 bags of gold, every one of them a testament to the life and the growth you made possible when you handed me that first bag and told me you trusted me." When the master saw those 10 bags, he was absolutely overjoyed. He literally jumped to his feet in a burst of pure happiness, his laughter echoing through the hall. He patted the servant on the shoulder and cried out, "Well done, my friend. You didn't just guard my gold, you understood my heart. Because you have been so faithful over these few things, I am going to put you in charge of many great things, far more than you can imagine. Don't just stand there. Come, enter in, and rejoice with your master." The master then called the second servant forward, still with tears of happiness in his eyes, his voice thick with emotion as he asked, "Tell me, my friend, what did you do with what I gave you?" The servant stepped up with a quiet, humble pride, his movements steady as he replied, "Master, I knew I wasn't as bold as the first, but I wanted to be just as faithful to the trust you placed in me. I took those 2 bags of gold, and I walked the land, looking for the steady, honest growth that comes from patience. I invested in the local olive groves, watching the trees season by season, and I put my efforts into the village craftsmen, helping them expand their workshops and reach new markets. I didn't rush into the high-stakes trades of the great ships, but I made sure that every cent you gave me was working, planted in good soil, where it could breathe and grow under a watchful eye. It was a journey of careful steps and quiet days, but through that diligence, I watched your investment double. Here are your 2 bags, and here are 2 more to match them. 4 bags of gold that grew because I believed in the steady power of the gift you handed me." The master was so moved that he practically jumped down from his seat, almost dancing in front of his servants in pure rejoicing. He threw his arms around the second servant in a powerful hug and cried out, "Well done, my friend. You weren't given as much as the first, but that didn't stop you for a second. You treated these 2 bags with the exact same amount of integrity and heart as he did with his 5, and that is what truly matters to me. Because you have been so good and so faithful over these few things, I am now going to make you in charge of many great things as well. Come, step into the celebration and rejoice with your master." The master was so overwhelmed with gratitude that he actually did a dance right there in the hall, rejoicing over how trustworthy his servants had proven to be. Finally, he wiped the tears of laughter from his face, turned with a warm, hopeful smile toward the third servant and asked, "And you, tell me, my friend, what did you do with what I gave you?" But the third servant didn't move toward the master. He stood back, his face hardened like stone. He reached into his cloak, pulled out the single dirt-caked bag, and said, "Master, I knew you. I knew you were a hard man, a man who reaps where he did not sow and gathers where he scattered no seed. I knew your standards were impossible and your judgment was sharp, so I was afraid of making a mistake that would cost me everything. I didn't want to risk your money in a world that might take it away, so I went and hid your bag of gold in the ground to keep it safe for you. See? You have what is yours. Here is your bag, exactly as you gave it to me, without a single cent missing." The master's smile dropped instantly. The joy was sucked out of the room, replaced by a terrifying silent heat. He was absolutely furious. A righteous anger so fierce that for a heartbeat he actually wanted to kill the servant. for the way he had spat on his generosity. But he took a long, shaking breath and contained himself. He looked at the man and growled, "You wicked, lazy servant. You say you knew me? You say you knew I was a man who reaps where he did not sow, and gathers where he scattered no seed. If you truly believed I was that demanding and that hard, then your own words condemn you. At the very least, you should have put my money in the hands of the bankers, so that when I arrived, I would have received my own capital back with interest. But you didn't hide the gold because you respected me. You hid it because you were too lazy to try, and too proud to fail. You took the freedom I gave you, and you buried it in the dirt. I trusted you, I gave you my wealth, and you spit in my face." The master reached out and forcefully snatched the bag of gold from the man's trembling hands. He called the first servant over, the one who already stood there with 10, and dropped the 11th bag into his arms. The other servants looked on in shock, whispering among themselves, "But master, why him? He already has 10. The master turned to them, his eyes blazing with a hard, eternal truth, and said, "To everyone who does more with what he has been given, more will be given. But from the one who does nothing with the little he has, even that will be taken away from him." Then, with a face full of righteous grief, he grabbed the third servant by the collar, dragging him toward the threshold. He looked at his guards and ordered, "Throw this useless servant out into the outer darkness, where there will be nothing but weeping and the gnashing of teeth." Make no mistake, it will be exactly like that on the day of judgment. My Father has given every single one of you talents, breath, and life to use for His glory. He didn't give them to you to keep them safe, or to hide them away in the dirt of your own fear. On that final day, you will stand before Him and give a full account for what you did with the precious gifts He placed in your hands. Do not let that day find you with a dusty, unopened bag. Use what He gave you while there is still light.
In ancient tales of love and grace, where lost are found and hearts embrace. A master gave talents to servants 3, to use them wisely and faithfully. One doubled his share, another 2, but the third was scared and hid his gold. This is the parables of Jesus.